Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wonder if being a good counselor in Japan is different from how it might be elsewhere? How do they approach helping people and understanding different cultures? Well, this new study dives deep into that very question, exploring something called cultural humility. This paper asks how the idea of cultural humility, which is about being open, respectful, and aware of your own cultural limits when working with people from different backgrounds, actually shows up in Japanese counseling. Researchers wanted to see if the tools we use to measure this in the West work the same way in Japan, or if the concept itself takes on a slightly different flavor. They developed a special Japanese version of a scale, the MCHS-J, to find out. So they got together 126 mental health pros and trainees in Japan. These are people like psychologists and counselors who are actively working with clients or training to do so. They filled out questionnaires to measure their cultural humility and also other things like how sensitive they are to different cultures and how strong their working relationships are with their clients. They also made sure to check if people were just trying to look good on paper, responding in a socially desirable way. The big question was how the measurement tool originally developed in English would hold up in Japanese. It turned out that 4 out of the 5 original ideas or dimensions of cultural humility fit well. These were things like being open to learning, being self-aware of your own biases, not always centering your own perspective, and being willing to reflect on and critique your own practice. But here is where it gets interesting. One specific item related to being open, and a whole dimension called supportive interactions, didn't quite fit the same way. The supportive interactions dimension was all about how counselors deal with cultural conflicts directly, like acknowledging biases and working with clients to resolve disagreements. This part didn't show up as a clear, separate idea in the Japanese data. The researchers suggest this might mean that the internal, reflective parts of cultural humility like self-awareness and being open to learning are pretty universal. But how you act on that humility, especially when it comes to dealing with cultural differences and potential conflicts in a relationship, might be shaped more by local culture and professional expectations. In Japan, they noted that communication can be more indirect and harmony, or WA, is highly valued. So instead of directly confronting and resolving conflict, the focus might be on relational adjustment and maintaining connection. This means that while counselors in Japan might be very self-aware and open to learning, the way they express that might look different. They might not be expected to explicitly call out cultural conflicts or feel the same pressure to resolve them directly as a distinct part of their job. Instead, these aspects might be woven into their general professional conduct and how they build rapport. Now, they also point out a crucial detail. All the items in that supportive interactions dimension were written in a way that if you agreed with them, it meant you weren't very culturally humble in that specific way. This reverse coding can sometimes mess with the results, and it is possible that the wording itself, combined with the cultural context, made these items not fit well. So it's not a slam dunk that the whole dimension is absent, but it strongly suggests a cultural difference in how these interactions are viewed. Even with this nuance, the study found that the MCHS-J scores did line up with other measures in ways that made sense. Higher cultural humility scores were linked to greater intercultural sensitivity, a stronger working alliance with clients, and more mindfulness. This is good news because it suggests the scale is measuring something real and important. Interestingly, they also found that while people who scored high on cultural humility also tended to score higher on socially desirable responding, meaning they wanted to look good, the core findings about intercultural sensitivity and working alliance still held up even after accounting for that. This means the scale isn't just measuring someone's wish to be seen as culturally humble. It is likely capturing something more genuine. So, what is the big picture here? This study is really valuable because it shows us that while the core idea of cultural humility being open, self-aware, and reflective seems to travel well across cultures, the specific ways we express it, especially in dealing with difficult interpersonal or cultural issues, might be quite different depending on the cultural context. It is not that Japanese counselors are less humble, but that their way of demonstrating it in practice might be more subtle or indirect. This research is a great example of how we need to be thoughtful when bringing psychological concepts across cultures. It is not just about translating words, it is about understanding how the very meaning and expression of a concept might change. This helps us build a richer, more inclusive understanding of human psychology, moving beyond just Western perspectives. For counselors and therapists in Japan, this MCHS scale could be a fantastic tool for self-reflection and professional development. It encourages them to look inward at their own biases and learning processes. But, as the researchers wisely point out, this is just the first step. More research is needed with larger groups to confirm these findings and to understand how cultural humility develops over time. Ultimately, this study gives us a refined way to understand and measure cultural humility among Japanese mental health professionals. It highlights the importance of the reflective learning oriented aspects while also acknowledging that how we navigate relationships and conflicts is deeply tied to our cultural backgrounds. It's a powerful reminder that psychology, like culture, is always evolving and adapting. What do you think about these findings? Does it make sense that dealing with cultural conflict might look different in different cultures? Let us know in the comments below if you found this breakdown helpful. Please give us a thumbs up and subscribe to RUBIN'S Mind Lab for more dives into fascinating research. Well, see you in the next one.